Yep, sounds good, man.
Okay, all right. 3, 2, 1. We are on. Hi everyone. Quick intro first. My name is David. I consider myself to be a data journalist. Very fortunate to have MJ with me today as well. MJ, do you want to give a quick intro for yourself as well?
Yeah. Thanks for that, David. Right. Yeah. So me, MJ. I consider myself really an engineer, like software engineer, mix of development and data engineering. But lately I'm really into data and AI. Also a Microsoft MVP for Azure. And it's been my passion to really just kind of like share things to the community, especially things that I'm working on or things I'm really interested about. And I think that like for one thing I'm really interested about for the past almost 2 years now is this whole LLM Gen AI, Chat GPT and stuff.
Because you guys are pretty lucky, right? You get to preview a lot of the stuff before general
Exactly.
availability, so
Yeah,
you get a bit more
exactly.
time to.
That's why before the whole craze about ChatGPT of November 2022, um I got a preview of that one already as early as around January, February of that year, which kind of like at that time I didn't think of it as much of like a real um kind of like monumental groundbreaking thing. But as you kind of like worked along, especially with things like GitHub Copilot, right? Like because you kind of like it's like a tool that you introduce to your workflow, and like the more you use it on it, and like the very fast or frequent update they do, you kind of like being part of that journey, right? But for us, right, like it's we're kind of like in the forefront of this, right? Even though we're not like the really first one, we're not the people who's actually doing this stuff, like building this, but we're still in kind of like the first end of the head of that fish, right? Like, and it's we're still kind of like fortunate that we're actually exposed to this, even as early as today. The moment your grandma or your parents talks about it, I think that's the time when it really got mainstream. Yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
no, definitely. So today we want to look at a very specific part of this chat like GPT thing. So it's GPT Vision. Um, deep learning has kind of evolved a fair bit since the early days, and I'm quite curious about this. But even before this, I know Azure, AWS, there's got different kind of image recognition type of services already. So
Yeah.
do you want to kind of provide a bit of like a high level? How does this particular thing differ from the predecessors?
The large language model is trained based from the public data set of the internet, right? Now, with vision capability, they're trying to incorporate the same idea wherein like, why not train it from a public data set that's well known, right? Like things that are universally well known. For example, a tree is a tree, right? Like you don't actually have to train your AI to detect if it's a tree, or like, trying to understand that, hey, this is a road, this is a grass, those kind of like common things, right? I think that's kind of like what we're kind of like exposed to now as a public data set. And then the magic around it now is that because of a large language model, you can now come up with some modality around it, like trying to piece in together, like, what do you think about this image? What does it do? Like, more than just doing detection or classifying, like you can actually correlate about it. You're now trying to talk to it. You're now being able to contextualize what's happening around that. And I think that is the power now of this technology, right? Like that's like we've come a long way, and I think this is now the part where it becomes much more tangible.
It sounds like there's obviously a lot of groundwork that has been done, in the past, and right now it's kind of at a level where even for the vision thing, it's a lot more context um, aware. It's a bit like the LLMs. I think one of the main things for the large language models like ChatGPT is that all of a sudden it can somehow understand the context around the
Exactly.
questions. And yeah, sounds like kind of vision is kind of moving towards that kind of magical space as well.
Right. So I can actually demo this to you, David, and like you
Yeah.
might be
This ChatGPT, and so version 4, and as part of that subscription, you kind of get Vision as well. And this is like something that's provided within Azure. Is that the
um
like?
so just to clarify, right? Like remember OpenAI is different from Azure OpenAI, right? So OpenAI is the company, right? And they're the one creating their own models, right? And
Yeah.
ChatGPT, GPT-4 Turbo is or one of their models, right? So they also created GPT-4 Turbo with Vision, and this is a OpenAI model, right? And what happened is that through Azure OpenAI, they basically wrap that OpenAI model, which is the GPT-4 Turbo with Vision, and you can also incorporate it with other Azure AI services, such as the Vision, services like custom vision, like computer vision, text analytics, knowledge mining, and all those type of stuff.
Right. Okay. Yep.
But
Yep.
the tool that you probably need to kind of like play around with it is the Azure AI Studio, right? Um, so last year or like few years ago, there's Azure Open AI Studio, which is literally like just the studio to play around with open AI models, right? But now they've came up with Azure AI Studio, which is like a general level type of studio, right? Like so it's not just exclusive to OpenAI anymore. So
Right.
you can actually choose things like Llama, YOLO, Databricks, but you can also still use OpenAI here, right? All right, so I'm gonna go to this project over here, and I'm gonna show you quickly. I preloaded this earlier. So basically, within the AI Studio, what you have is like a project directory here, an overview, build and stuff like. And then these are like different blades to kind of like choose if you're just playing around or you're doing evaluation, which we could probably talk about in the future more, right? Like these different components here as well. But the most important part, or at least to begin with, is just go to the playground so that you can have that kind of like experience of testing your model, right? Um, and then we have this whole concept of a system message, like if this is where the concept of um, being a prompt engineer comes into handy, so that you're kind of like tweaking what that assistant setup would be like. For example, you want to ground it saying that if you ask about this, don't say that. Like if you're creating a support about Xbox, obviously you don't want it to talk about PlayStation, right? So things like that. So that's that. And then you can also add your data here, which we can talk about later as well. Like you want to connect to a database or storage of some sort, and you can have examples here as well. But let's just keep it pretty vanilla for now. Uploaded an image of this is my car. It's a Suzuki Vitara 2019, and like I'm seeing this orange thingy there, right? Um, like I have no idea what this is. Like I looked at manuals, I googled around, like like what does it really means, right? Um, so basically through this model, what you can do is just upload an image and then like add some chat or question around it, wherein I said, what seems to be the problem with my Suzuki Vitara 2019? So, and then, it actually understood that, hey, like it created that bounding boxes there. So basically, it did say that the image shows that the dashboard of your Suzuki Vitara, there's an illuminated warning light, right? So that was that orange there.
Mm,
So it was able
wow.
to detect that. On the left side of the dashboard, it looks like a car engine, which is commonly known as the check engine light. So basically, it was able to know that hey, something might be wrong with your engine, right? Like there's a warning
Mm,
showing that you know this light is part of vehicle's onboard diagnostic system. Yeah, like it kind of like whenever there's a problem with the engine, it kind of like lights up, right?
yeah.
So, and it even gave you a recommendation that, don't just Google around. Make sure to get checked by a professional as soon as possible to diagnose the specific issue, right? So, because of that, I kind of like, I scheduled a service for this car. right? Like because I have no
Oh,
idea what to do with this. Right? Now I'll show you another thing, which like might be relevant for people like us or people in IT in general, right? Like if you like work in IT and like working on projects, you might be seeing a bunch of diagrams, right? Like things like this, right? Like for an ordinary user, this might feel a bit daunting or like it might be a bit kind of like complicated to look at, right? But for someone like a solutions architect or a data architect, they would pick it up straight away, right? But what this vision capability can do as well is that you can actually ask it to interpret this for you. All right, let's try that.
oh wow.
All right, let's upload an image, describe this diagram. Yeah, it's taking a while, but there you go, right?
Oh,
So
cool.
yeah, so
Let's see.
basically it did mention that this diagram appears to depict a data processing architecture. There you go, right? Like it already pictured out that it's a data processing architecture, meaning it's about, moving data from source to target,
Hmm.
right? And then showcasing the flow of data from various sources through pipelines and ultimately serving where different stakeholders can access and utilize the project data, right? So, okay, that's a good summary for me. And then it was able to kind of like okay, basically say, hey, here's a source. On the source side, data can be sourced from variety of inputs such as SQL databases. So on that one, right? Like let's just show the image again. So it was able to decipher that, hey, the source can be kind of like of variety, such as SQL Azure, on-prem, or Cosmos DB and stuff like that. And then there's the concept of like external data sources as well, right? And end users can upload files through a web portal and also view reports. So, and then on the pipeline itself, the middle section represents the data, and like this raw ingestion data is processed, like cleans data, like basically just create a documentation for you, right? Like what this
Yeah.
diagram does. So I think
Well,
yeah
interesting.
we're entering this space where like there's so much use case of this technology, man. Like I'm telling you, like right now it's still a bit slow and like there's still that throttling problem here and there, but wait a few more years. I think when we get more specialized on doing these things, more hardware specialized in performing these activities, I think that's when it's gonna really kick off. I think that's very exciting to look forward to. Because
Oh, 100%, 100%. The like so back to the tool. Do you need to set anything up? I can see in the system message you kind of put a bit of like a prompt in there. Is that the only thing you need to do to actually set this
yeah,
thing up or
just to get started, yeah, I mean, absolutely, right? On the playground point of view, yes, and then later on, you integrating this to applications like that, you have to use the Azure AI Studio SDK to kind of like,
right?
perform these activities, right? Like, now let's say you have a mobile app or a web app and you want to do this, right? Like, just have to call a bunch of APIs, right? And just upload the image, like put in some, chat completions and stuff like that. So similar to how it already is with, working with the Chat GPT API. So it's all gonna be
Yeah.
it's all API based, right? If you wanna abstract this to an application, like there's a big emphasis of like responsible AI, content safety, things like that. Like every talk or every presentation you go into with anything with AI, they always kind of like close off with this, right? Like content safety and responsible AI. And there's just, they've really worked hard towards this.
Yeah, well, I think that's definitely one of the like main concerns for different kind of organizations adopting this kind of technology. And I mean, it's yeah, definitely good to see that. Yeah, there's a lot more things they've already considered, they've already implemented. Yeah, because doing them from the dev side this is like a humongous task. So they've already taken care of it. So yeah, I'm definitely hoping that they can release allow more people to actually get onto the Azure AI Studio soon. Yeah.
I think we're good for now, David. And again, we'll cover more topics in the future. And yeah.